Hey kids, Mr. Golder here again. Today we're going to be building a really cool project. It's a puzzle box. This is the basic model of the puzzle box. Looks like this. It's a prototype. And this is how you open it up. First, you have to figure out what to do at the top here. Oh, that one moves. Oh, that one moves. Oh no, this one doesn't move. Wait a minute. Oh, that comes out. Still can't do anything. How about over here? Slide that down. Slide this sideways. And the box is open. And for an extra little compartment, slide that down. Pull out the secret compartment sheet. The basic functioning and design of this puzzle box is one that's been around for a long time. I've just kind of modified it and add some extra pieces to make it a little more fun. So let's get started with step one. Step one, we're going to make the main box frame. We're going to cut our stock into 4 pieces, 2 ends and 2 sides. If you haven't yet learned how to use the miter saw, we're going to use the belt sander to sand our ends perfectly square. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure up our piece of wood, 10.5 centimeters, 10.5, 30, and 30. And then we're going to use a square to draw a nice straight line all the way across the piece of wood so that when we cut we get a nice straight line. Looks just like that. Then we're going to use our bench vise and our cutting board to hold our piece of wood while we cut it. Remember, we use the cutting board so that both sides of the cut are supported. And we limit the amount of cutting we do into the table, and it's less likely that your piece will crack. So cut your piece of wood 3 times. Remember, if you're getting 4 pieces out of this, you should only have to cut it 3 times. If you're cutting it 4 times, it means you did something wrong with your measuring. Once you have your 4 pieces, you should have 2 long pieces and 2 short pieces. We're going to use the belt sander here. Make sure we have the vacuum on so that we don't get dust everywhere. So as we're sanding here, I'm holding the 2 inside pieces against the 90-degree fence and moving them back and forth so as not to heat up one section of the belt. And I'm flipping them each way and end to end in order to even them all out and make sure that they end up with 2 pieces that are exactly the same and then another 2 pieces that are exactly the same. So now we're back at our table, and what we're doing is we're putting the main frame together. Put some paper towel down on the table so that we don't get glue all over the table. And then I glued the 2 inside ends of the box, and I'm lining them up so that they're all flush at each end. And then we're going to use a couple of F-clamps just to hold that together while the glue dries. Occasionally, as you put the F-clamp on, if it's not totally straight, the end pieces will slide back and forth or up and down. So I have a mallet there, you'll see in just a second. I'm going to use the mallet just to tap the pieces in place so that I get them exactly right. I'm hitting it with the mallet there, just getting everything nice and flush. And once I feel like it's all in place as it should be, I'm going to give the clamps one last tighten. If you have any extra glue, you can just squidging out, you can just wipe that off with a paper towel. Let the glue dry, then we're on to the next step. Step 2. You can sand the frame if you need to, and then you're going to glue and nail the bottom plate in place with 12 to 14 nails. Alternatively, for a cleaner look, you can just glue a nice solid piece of wood to the bottom. Put a little bead of glue around the edge of the box, and then we're going to attach the bottom. Make sure the glue's not too thick. You just kind of want to put a thin line all the way around. If you put too much glue on, when you put the bottom in place, it's just going to drip around all the way down the outside and the inside of the box. Once you're ready, you place the bottom in place. Take one of the nails. I usually like to start in one corner. I'll put one corner nail in and then make sure that the bottom is straight, and then move to the second corner. And then after that, I can work from one end of the box to the other, putting all the nails in. As you put all the nails in, just make sure you're about 1 centimeter in from the edge. If you're a little too close to the edge, sometimes the nails can come out the side and split the wood. So make sure you're far enough in from the edge that that's not going to happen. And if you do have a nail come out the side, then bang it back out the back way and pull it out with the claw of the hammer and start again. Step 3, we're going to make the locking notch. You need to measure and draw this out of the provided piece of wood. Cut it out very carefully on the scroll saw. We've got to get this just right. You can see the locking notch on the sample right here. It's glued to the end of the main frame of the box. And then I've covered it with a piece on the outside so that when the box is closed, it doesn't give away how it opens. So using the guide we had on the last slide, we're going to measure up that notch. If you take a piece of 1x material that's 3/4 of an inch thick, I'm going to line that up against the bottom edge here. And give us a straight line all the way down. We're going to take our ruler and we're going to do the measurements we saw on that previous slide, which was 3.5 centimeters from the edge along the center line, and then 2 centimeters from the edge along the top of the block. And then take the ruler and join those together, and you're going to get a diagonal line. You can do the same on the other side, 3.5 in from the edge on the center line, 2 centimeters in from the edge along the top, and then join them and draw the diagonal. When you're done, your block should look just like this. And now we're going to go cut it on the scroll saw. And now you just want to be very careful that you cut those lines very straight and right on the line, because we want this piece to be as good as it can be, as perfect as it can be, because it will really help later on when we're cutting the top to line up with it. So when you're done, this is pretty much what it should look like. The other part we have to make is this corner block in here that the top pieces swivel on. It's just going to be a square block of wood that we glue into the corner of the frame. To measure that corner piece, just take a piece of wood, square on one end, place it at the bottom of the box, and scribe. And cut. Next step, we're going to glue those two pieces in place. So we're going to take that block, we're going to put some glue on it, and 2 sides in the bottom, and push it into place. I just hold it in place with a spring clamp, but you can use another type of clamp if you like. And then we're going to take that notch block and glue across the bottom there. Make sure you get it glued all the way across. Line it up with the edge of the box, get it in place there, and you can clamp it just with a couple of F-clamps, one on each side. Just make sure that, again, as you're using those F-clamps, that it doesn't slide around. We really want that piece to be nice and flush with the end of the box, so that when we do our final sanding, it sort of blends in and it seems like it's all one piece. If you have any extra glue squidging out, just take a little piece of paper towel and wipe that glue off and clean it all up. Now we're going to go ahead and let this dry, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is making our fancy laminated top. For this part, choose several pieces of wood from the stock provided. Cut the pieces to 35 centimeters long each, and ensure when all the pieces are lined up next to each other that you have a width of 14 centimeters, or basically the width of the frame of your box that you've made. I've got a selection of wood here from the pile. I'm going to measure it at 35 centimeters and cut them all so they're all the same. So if you only have a ruler that's 30 centimeters, you just measure 30 and then add 5. Makes sense, right? I just mark it on one piece, then stack all the pieces together, line them up, and then just grab my square, hold it across all the pieces I'm using on my 35 centimeter mark, and trace it across all the pieces. And then I can cut them all at once. Got my pieces all cut at 35 centimeters. And you might ask, why 35? Our box is only 30 centimeters. Well, by cutting them at 35, it gives us a little bit of extra leeway in case we make a mistake when we cut the other half of our locking notch onto the top. So, I put them all together. Got a nice symmetrical pattern here. You can do whatever pattern you like. And then I just want to measure and make sure I have enough material. Got just under 14 and a half. My box is just over 14, so I should be good to go. We're going to glue it together. In order to glue it together, I'm going to put some paper towel back down on the table so we don't get glue all over the table. Line your pieces up in the order that you want to glue them together. Get some glue, have some clamps ready, and glue them up. So as we're gluing them, you want to make sure that you get a reasonable amount of glue on each piece, but again, don't overdo it, otherwise it's just a waste of glue and it's messy and it gets everywhere. You take each piece and you really just need to glue one side of each piece and then lie it next to the previous piece. Make sure you're doing it right over the paper towel because this can get messy. Don't worry about gluing it to the paper towel because later on when we run this whole thing through the thickness planer, it'll get rid of any remnants of paper towel that accidentally got glued to your project. And take that last piece and we're just going to glue it on there, and then you're just going to take those F-clamps and you're going to clamp it nice and tight. If you see some glue kind of squishing out all the way along there, then it means that you've done it right. We're just going to let our pieces here glue up and dry, and then we're going to continue on with the rest of the puzzle box project, and join us for the second half of the video, which should be right underneath this one.